It's not exactly been a smooth journey with my very cheap Maserati 4200. Who would have thought? I bought it last December in an undrivable condition from a bloke in Scotland for just £4,000. Bear in mind, this is a Ferrari engined dry sump super GT car that cost over £60,000 back in 2004. That, in today's money, is in excess of 110 grand. So of course, buying this 21-year-old Maserati at a 1/25th of its original value wasn't going to be exactly, well, particularly smart. But before you head to the comment sections to kick me while I'm down, I confess there is something I must share with you. This is the best car I've ever bought. You see, despite the fact that this car has spent half the year on a ramp, half a month then broken on my driveway, and half a week thereafter at the fuel pump, the reality is that now I'm driving what is essentially a baby Ferrari for less than the price of a 5-year-old Ford Fiesta. And no one has ever truly been lying on their deathbed thinking, oh, you know what, I'm so glad I played it safe. And the very fact that we can get these cars for such low prices now just needs to be taken advantage of.
Hey, quick one. I promised I would shout out a friend of mine's business, Grayscale Digital. If you're a business owner, lawyer, an engineering firm, or just anyone drowning in paperwork, Grayscale Digital is the game changer that you need. They convert your physical documents, contracts, blueprints, old records into searchable digital files that you can access from anywhere. So why not get yourself organized and boost your business's efficiency right now? Click the link in the description to check out Grayscale Digital to see what they can do for your business. Anyway, back to the Maserati.
So let me just go through a few reasons then why I'm so glad I took advantage of this opportunity. Number one, of course, the engine. It's simply breathtaking. They say, don't they, that when you buy a Maserati, you're buying the engine and everything else that comes with it, the wheels, the body, the seats, well, it's all just added on for free. But I'm not so sure with this, because there is so much more than just the engine to get excited about with this car. Let's start with the dials, the thing that you're looking at most of the time. They are mesmerizing. The deep blue and the analog physically moving odometer, the beautiful Jaeger rev counter, which seemingly is teasing you to find that red line. Then there's this cambio quarter transmission, to which the rhetoric is, well, it's awful, useless, antiquated, and very, very expensive and costly to maintain. But in my opinion, it is anything but that. For starters, I've heard through the grapevine that the manual in these 4200s that was offered as a standard option is nothing really to write home about. It's like shifting into a bowl of melted chocolate. So you don't exactly have the fear of missing out on that front. And then there's the very fact that we are 20, 30 years into this F1 gearbox technology now. And I think it's got to the point where it now becomes actually part of the character of the car, part of the charm that attracts me to get into this driver's seat. I love how it behaves so differently depending on how you drive the car. No, it's never a good thing to maneuver with or be stuck in traffic in. However, if you learn how to get the best out of it, it is truly something that makes this car ever more exciting to drive. For example here, if I just downshift into second, it's slow, it's a little bit lumpy. However, I found that if you pull the pedal, then blip the throttle, you get a rev match downshift with a beautiful noise. And then if I'm to shift on half power, it's fairly slow, but downshift again, go for full throttle, the shift is faster and more precise. You never quite know exactly how it's going to behave, and for me that is a big part of the thrill. I know everything I've described there doesn't actually sound particularly useful or livable, but you've got to remember we live in a world now where the ZF gearbox is incredibly good, the Porsche, PDK, DCTs in BMWs, sublimely good gearboxes for almost absolutely everything, but they just don't give you that drama, that theatre. You know, when I get into my Maserati, I want to be wowed every single time, and that is exactly what you get with this. Then let's talk about the all-out performance then. Well, obviously it's the F138 power plant, basically what you had in a Ferrari 360, but it's not really like it's down on power anyway, about 395 in the 360, 385 in this. This particular car has sports cats as well, which does make it feel way quicker than that, if I'm honest. But the thing is, it's just that sort of sweet spot of power where I can still go through first, second, third gear without breaking any laws. And then with this being a rear wheel drive, limited slip diff car, it's so playful. You get on the power and the front end goes a little bit light, a bit like a Porsche 911, and you get so much movement from the back. Now, of course, these are probably not the best tyres, they're slightly old and definitely aren't delivering as much grip as they would if they were new, but it just means it can really feel the back of the car moving around. You then have other hints inside the car to remind you that you're in something special. Mention the blue dials, obviously lovely Maserati badge, and then this switchgear for the Cambio Corsa gearbox, which is basically identical to what you had in a 612 Scaglietti Ferrari, a Ferrari 360 Modena, and then the beautiful clock and the coupe Cambio Corsa there on the glove box. You have beautifully stitched Italian leather all around, which 21 years later is still presenting superbly well. And then you have this fantastically retro infotainment system, which is the only one I've ever found to date that measures altitude in yards. You see, when you get on the power there, it really shifts precisely. I truly cannot think of any car that can be comfortably had for under £10,000 that does everything that this Maserati does. And truth be told, yes, I only paid £4,000 for this car, but it's cost me about another £4,000 to get it to this point where it's running so splendidly. But was it all worth it? Well, I think you know what my answer is going to be. Hell yeah. But why am I telling you all of this then? Well, obviously I want to share with you how pleased I am with this car and how happy I am that it was fixed and then I was able to fix it again. But truly, I just want to encourage you guys to take the plunge into Maserati ownership, or maybe that cheap Aston Martin you've always been thinking about. There are so many cars now that fit into this sort of category, whether your budget's £5,000, £10,000, £20,000, even £50,000. And from what I've learned, if you go into these ownership experiences with eyes wide open and a little bit of patience, it truly, truly pays dividends. And if maybe I've convinced you, but perhaps not your partner, well, can't really say this car's impractical because it's got two very usable seats in the back, a very good sized boot, and it returns a, maybe we won't talk about that one, 10.6 miles per gallon. Yeah, fuel economy is not one of the plus points of this Maserati, that's for sure. You may be wondering, Joel, are you not just sort of driving around with a deep-seated anxiety in the bottom of your stomach that something's going to give, something's going to go catastrophically wrong? And the truth of the matter is, no, not at all. One, because, well, this car ultimately doesn't owe me that much money for what it is. And then actually what I found now that I've put almost 300 miles on this car is it gets better with time. The more and more you drive it and drive it properly, i.e. using all the revs, getting up to temperature nicely, treating the gearbox with a bit of respect, the car starts to warm up to you. I don't really have that anxiety. I'm learning more about it, and it's not caused me any issues. You may notice there is an engine management light, and I will just say that is for a lambda sensor issue, which is to do with the sports catalytic converters on the car. So again, nothing to really cause any concern. I could talk about some of the negatives, like yes, the atrocious fuel economy, the sticky buttons that was common in Ferrari and Maserati of this era, the slight maintenance concerns, but again, when you're paying less than 10 grand for something that is really, really special, who honestly cares? Honestly, I have to keep pinching myself that this is my car and that I'm not just reviewing a viewer's car or a press car. This is my car. Also, it's one of those things you look back at when you've parked it, because it is just so drop dead gorgeous. The paintwork on this as well, although it appears just black, when you get it on a day like today, there's a beautiful deep bronze fleck in the paintwork that comes out. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous metallic thing. But listen, the reason I set up this channel many moons ago is because I bought a BMW Z4 because it turned out that a 3-litre Z4 for me at 17 years old was cheaper to insure than the Vauxhall Corsa I'd had before. And the thesis with my videos going forwards remains the same, in that there's things you can get into that are not as expensive as you might think, and that you should do it. And if there's ever been a perfect metaphor for the proposition of my YouTube channel, it is this, the Maserati 4200. Go out, buy yourself one before they become too expensive. You're going to love the gearbox despite what everybody tells you. It is just something that adds so much character to the car. And in fact, if someone offered me a straight swap with a manual, they could put a manual in this car, I'd point blank refuse. I wouldn't be nearly as excited about driving this car if it had a manual gearbox. And the last thing I want to leave you on is that owning a car like this really is sort of another way of looking at life. It has ups and downs. It's never ever going to be smooth sailing, but when things are working, when everything is going well, you've just got to make the most of it, have a smile on your face, and that is why I'm going to do one more unnecessary lap of my favourite road.